Good afternoon. My name's Emily Koski. I'm the chair of the Budget Committee. I'm going to call to order our regular committee meeting for the afternoon of Monday, October 23rd. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll to verify the presence of a quorum.
Councilmember Payne.
Present.
Walmsley.
Present.
Rainville.
Present.
Vita.
Present.
Ellison is absent. Osman is absent. Goodman.
Present.
Jenkins is absent. Chavez.
Present.
Chugtai.
Present.
Johnson is absent. Vice Chair Palmisano.
Present.
Chair Koski.
Present.
There are 9 members present.
Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. This afternoon, we will hear budget presentations from the fire and police departments. We will begin with a presentation from the fire department. Here to present is Chief Brian Tyner. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Koski and members of the committee. It is my pleasure today to present to you the Minneapolis Fire Department budget overview for 2024. So I'll start. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but this is our org chart as we are currently organized. Under the fire chief is the assistant chief of operations, the assistant chief of administration, and the finance director. And then, as you can see, everything is kind of split out from there. Our top 3 priority objectives for 2024 are, 1, to continue to increase the diversity of the MFD to better reflect the community that we serve. The MFD will ensure it has the resources required to keep up with the increasing demands for service for the people who live, work, and play in the city of Minneapolis, and placing a focus and a priority on the continued physical and mental health and wellness of the members of this department. I'd like to talk about some of our achievements of the last few years, beginning with 2022. In 2022, we were able to complete our recovery of the Minneapolis Fire Department from the losses that we suffered from COVID and the civil unrest. We were able to hire 3 fire cadet classes to recover from the personnel losses that we suffered in 2020 and 2021. And we were even able to expand upon our authorized strength from 419 to 434 through an award of the Federal SAFER Grant. We reimagined and upgraded our employee assistance program to include a peer recovery team. If you don't know what that is, a peer recovery team is a team of people who are trained to provide peer recovery and counseling services, but it's comprised of people from both inside our department and outside of our department. So if you feel more comfortable talking to someone you know or somebody you're familiar with inside of our department, you can call that person. Or if you feel more comfortable talking to a firefighter that has experienced the things that you have experienced but don't know you are outside of that department, that is a option also. They are trained under the MenFire program. We were also introduced leadership development curriculum at both the fire captain and chief officer levels. We did that to create a strong line of succession and leadership within the Minneapolis Fire Department and make sure that people who are interested in taking on leadership positions are prepared to do so. We relaunched the EMS Pathways Academy after a hiatus due to COVID-19. As you know, that program is a paid internship whereby students are able to get their emergency medical technician's certification and then be connected with careers in the fire service and in other places in the EMS fields. That has been a very successful and award-winning program. We hired and promoted the most diverse administration and fire cadet classes in the history of the Minneapolis Fire Department, and we continued the work from 2021 to upgrade our operational procedures and capabilities as recommended in the Hillard-Heinz report. Moving on to 2023, we were able to launch our Safe Stations Opioid Peer Recovery Project. That is a program that's designed to treat substance use disorders and also other problems that people may be having, such as housing and other things. It is currently located at Fire Station 14. It's been in service for less than a year now, but it has proven to be very successful, and it's done in partnerships with Twin Cities Recovery Project and a number of other organizations. We continue the improvement of our employee assistance program through the addition of PAR 360. PAR 360 is a resilience training and mental health services program designed specifically for first responders. So although other programs of that type can help first responders. This was designed specifically with first responders in mind and designed by a psychologist who herself was a first responder. So that is getting off the ground, and our resilience training is actually set to kick off next week. We were able to secure a state contract to serve as a Minnesota State Hazardous Materials Chemical Assessment Team, which is no small feat, and it's a good thing because it brings money in from the state to help offset some of our hazardous materials costs, but it also expands our response area. Excuse me, to cover other parts of the state. Thanks to money that was added into our budget last year, we were able to update our incident reporting software, and that kickoff is actually next week. We were able to put in service an additional fire engine company in the downtown corridor, Fire Engine 10, to help offset some of the increases of demand for services that we've been experiencing in the downtown corridor. We introduced mentoring and job shadow career development program to go along with our leadership training so that people who are looking to move up and rank or looking at other jobs possibly in the future have a chance to really be mentored by someone in that position and job shadow that position to see if that is something that's really going to be of interest to them. Finally, we continued our training and exercise activities in response to the recommendations of the Hillard Heights report. Excuse me. Now, I'd like to talk about some of the risks that we're looking at for the Minneapolis Fire Department and really the fire service at large. The first, which we, as you can see, are looking to address here in the last couple of years, is mental health and PTSD. It's a relatively new, it's not a new thing in the fire department. It's something that's recently being recognized in the fire service. When we kind of looked at the signs and symptoms, we were able to discover that it's been here all along, but now it's kind of really come to the surface. And so we're really trying to focus on that to prevent our members from getting to the point where they are suffering from PTSD, or at least where they can be treated from it and still remain in this career. Recruitment and retention issues. We've gone to a 12-month, all year round recruitment model. We used to just recruit maybe a few months before we would open up for applications, but now we're going to recruitment all year round in all neighborhoods and all populations. And retention is something that had never been a problem for the Minneapolis Fire Department, but in recent years, a lot of suburban departments and other departments have gone to full-time firefighting models, and they do lateral hiring. And so retention is something that we're keeping our eye on. We've lost a couple of members to that, not a lot yet, but it is definitely something that we're paying attention to. Also, getting back to recruitment, our recruitment numbers have gone down over the last 15 years. It used to be, when I applied for this job, which is a lot longer than 15 years ago, but even up to 15 years ago, when we'd open up this for applications every 2 years, we would get about 2,000 to 2,500 applications every 2 years. And it's steadily gone down over the years, and this is true throughout the fire service. Our last list was just over 700. So we're getting ready to open that up again here in February, and so we'll see if that trend continues. But recruitment is something that we've been very focused on here in the last few years. Finally, logistics. In a number of areas. Facilities, we need a new fire station to house our new Fire Engine 10. Facility maintenance and upkeep. A lot of our buildings are old and require a lot of maintenance and upkeep to keep them up to par. And then our fleet, we're suffering delays in receiving new apparatus and in receiving replacement parts. Now, these are all due to supply chain issues. It's nothing that any of us can do about it, but still, it is an area of concern and a risk that we have been looking at. Right now, when we order a fire engine or a fire truck, our expected delivery time is at least a year or more. So you have to plan way ahead. We even have trouble getting the SUVs, oftentimes take up to a year. So we're having to plan ahead on a lot of that. And also when it comes to receiving replacement parts, we used to kind of be able to do a just-in-time kind of replacement model where if we needed a part You know, you call the part place, they bring it right on over, and the mechanics can put it on. But now we're having to order and stock parts ahead of time, some of them, because they may not be immediately available. And finally, software and hardware replacement. We just talked about ImageTrend, our reporting software that we are replacing. Hardware replacement will be something that I'll put in front of you today. And so we do have some other needs after that that I plan to get to in the coming years. Our program and staffing summary. Our staffing, or all of our programs are kind of spread out amongst all of our FTEs, but I am happy to say that we're not requesting any FTEs next year. Our 442 is what we have this year, is what we intend to have next year. That includes the 434 of sworn personnel, 15 of which are paid for by the SAFER grant for the next 3 years, and 8 civilian positions. All right, let's talk about our program updates. So our biggest program, we have 3 business lines. Our biggest business line is the fire suppression, EMS, and technical rescue model. Is the one that most people think of when they think of the fire department. It is the actual response side of the business. The goals of this program are to respond effectively to all emergencies and hazards, to meet the national response standards contained in NFPA 1710, and to ensure that the most appropriate and efficient response of rigs, equipment, and personnel are responding to each incident type. The race equity impacts for this program are neutral. We respond to everyone when they call. If you call us, we're coming. We don't care who you are, how you identify, where you live, any of that. We're coming, and we're coming as fast as we can with everything we need. The NFPA standard requires the first rig on scene to arrive in 5 minutes or less 90% of the time. The MFD has, I don't think, ever made that standard, but over the last few years, we've actually gone farther and farther away from meeting the standard. We were only able to meet this standard 65% of the time in 2022, which represents a significant decline in response time. Our overall average, however, is only 526, so we're not that far off, but we're not there either. Some of our accomplishments in this area is that we were awarded a 3-year, $4.5 million FEMA SAFER grant, which I've mentioned several times already, which will allow the department to add 15 firefighters at no cost to the city. And we were also awarded a $149,250 assistance to firefighters grant from FEMA to be used towards firefighter mental health and to launch the peer fitness training program that we talked about. So it's being used to pay for the Part 360 service. This really talks about our call volume from 2008 to 2022. The blue line represents our EMS and rescue calls, which by and large is EMS, and then the green represents our total calls for those years. As you can see, the EMS calls are at least 70%, if not 75% each year of the total calls, and they continue to rise. There was a dip in 2020, the COVID year. I think because people were at home, we got called a little bit less, but as you can see, they jumped right back up in 2021, and they continue to rise. The fire calls seem to stay fairly constant, but the medical calls seem to rise at least 3% every year. This is our response time of 5 minutes or less, 90% of the time metric. As you can see in 17, we were doing it 76% of the time. I can even remember back at a time where we were probably around 80 in the 2008, 2009 maybe area, but 65% here this last year, and you can see where it has kind of slowly declined. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. However, I think adding Engine 10 to the downtown corridor is one thing that will help with that, especially in that area. I also think the new station alerting system that we are pursuing will help because it actually streamlines the process and cuts about 18 to 20 seconds out of that dispatch time, which doesn't sound like a lot. But if I go back and tell you that, our total overall average time is 5:29, you cut 18 to 20 seconds off of that. I think that can actually pretty much get us there. So that would mean everything. And I probably don't have to tell you, if you're the person at the other end of the line and you're having a heart attack or some emergency, 20 seconds, means a lot to you too. So something that we can pretty easily do. So our our change requests for this area are overtime. We're asking for $800,000 to be added to our overtime budget one time for 2024. It would bring our overtime budget to $1.2 million in 2024, which right-sizes our overtime budget and corrects the COVID-era budget reductions. Our budget was reduced from $800 to $400 in 2020, even though when we kind of looked at the numbers, we were probably closer to $1 million, $1.2 million. So the 800 wasn't even accurate or the right size at the time. An increase to that overtime budget, it allows the department to spend in full the other areas of our expense budget rather than underspending in those areas to try to make up for the overage and overtime. In the past, that's what we've done to try to balance our budget, but once 2020 came and everything got blew out the water, even that wasn't sufficient anymore. This supports the fire department's goal of meeting our budget on an annual basis, while at the same time gives us the ability to fully spend in the other areas of our operating budget so that those areas don't suffer in order to keep people on the rigs. Our second ask is for mobile data computers. Those are the kind of tough book laptops that are contained in each rig, and that's how we communicate with dispatch and each other, is how our runs get transmitted to us. We're asking for $150,000 one time to replace all of the mobile data computers that are in each of the fire apparatus. The devices are 6 years old and past their expected life. The way that we were able to finance them the last time, they weren't included in the refresh schedule for IT. So by going this route this time, they will be rescheduled. They will be scheduled in the refresh. They will be automatically refreshed every 4 to 5 years when they come due, and we won't ever have to come to you again. So happy to say that. This supports the fire department's goal of having up-to-date technology to enable the department to be more productive and efficient. And right now we are working with IT to purchase these devices and get them added to the refresh list for future replacement. All right, our next program area is training and recruitment. Again, we have three. The function of the training and recruitment program is to ensure that firefighters are thoroughly trained, that they're capable leaders and supervisors through the pursuit of excellence and high professional standards. We accomplish this by providing skills training, by instilling a value of lifelong learning and the development of leadership traits, ensuring a focus on wellness, health, and safety. Some of our accomplishments in this area are that we completed the process of redeveloping and expanding the MFD Employee Assistance Program, which I talked about, so I won't take you through all of that again. We completed the process of staffing recovery. We hired, where we would normally hire one class a year, we hired like 5 classes back to back over the last 2 years. So as soon as we graduated class, we're almost putting in another class. So training and recruitment has been extremely busy here over the last 2 years. Of course, we talked about the MFD Leadership Development Curriculum, which I think is going to be a big boon to our development and our future as a department. We have not goals, but actually requirements that each of us have to meet to remain a firefighter, to maintain our Minnesota firefighter's license, and to maintain our Minnesota Emergency Medical Technician certifications. I'm happy to report that 100% of our firefighters have completed the 72 hours over 3 years of mandatory fire training necessary to maintain their licenses. We're actually way over that. We probably each do about 100 hours a year as opposed to the 24 hours a year that's required. So that one we've made pretty easily over the years. And 100% of our firefighters have the 80 hours of mandatory emergency medical training over 2 years necessary to maintain their EMT technician certification. And we didn't have any asks in this area, so I'll move on to community risk reduction and outreach. The Community Risk Reduction and Outreach Program's function is to reduce preventable fires, fire-related deaths, and fire-related injuries and deaths. The program is tasked with reaching out to Minneapolis residents and businesses with fire safety and prevention information, but it also expands out to things that aren't necessarily fire-related, slips, trips, and falls, poison control, things like that. So anything to really improve the health and wellness of our citizens. The programs that are offered, or some of them actually, because there's quite a few, offered by the Community Risk Reduction and Outreach Program include the Youth Fire Setter Intervention Program. It's a program where, if a kid's kind of starting fires or has gotten in trouble, we are able to provide intervention in a safe space to kind of, teach them the error of their ways without getting involved in necessarily in the legal process. School-age outreach and education, adult and aging adult outreach, differently abled outreach, immigrant and non-English speaking outreach, and smoke and carbon monoxide alarm distribution, which is, of course, one of our most popular programs. We're actually getting ready to receive a new shipment of smoke and carbon monoxide alarms, and we distribute those free to, citizens across Minneapolis who may need a smoke alarm or a carbon monoxide alarm detector in their home, I should say. Some of our accomplishments is we've been able to expand the program and added an additional FTE. It sounds like a lot. We actually only had one person, now we have two. We instituted year-round sustained recruitment efforts, and we provided fire safety and community risk reduction informations and materials to residents across the city, along with those smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. So with that, I will thank you and stand for questions.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. I'll see if we have any questions. Council Vice President Palmisano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few, but I'll be quick.
Okay.
Chief Tyner, you mentioned in the previous slide community outreach, and one of those points was about differently abled outreach. I'm curious, because I have heard that this has been something that our local firefighters have done. Does that mean helping someone to set up a home when they perhaps come home from the hospital a little bit differently abled than before? Like, does it mean that you will advise or assist with helping the installation of railings and that sort of thing? Or help me understand simply what you mean by differently.
Yep, so mostly our work is mostly in an advisory capacity. We install fire alarms and smoke alarms. We haven't traditionally installed like the railings and things like that. So
because I know you're called on to help with slips and falls.
Yes,
people
all the time.
Perhaps get discharged too early. It is amazing the work our firefighters do. I even heard that they fixed an older woman's toilet in my work once upon a time.
I will say the crews, oftentimes when they go out to those runs, they will stay after and help. It's not part of our official business line, but the crews being who they are, oftentimes will help people out in those ways when given the opportunity.
Thank you. I'm curious, in your slide that shows that our response times are slipping, I've come to appreciate that this calculation is complex.
It is.
For example, I think that if there were to be 4 to a rig, that might increase the response time because of the amount of fire suppression or the amount of people able to immediately be on scene? Or I guess you mentioned things that seem geographical to some extent, like being able to put station 10, fire engine 10 back in a station. But what are some of the other things that impact response times? Because I've heard a lot from the community about how important that is to them, including road width. I think I spent one of my ride-alongs looking at bike lanes.
There is a lot. So, first of all, let me separate those two. So 4 on a rig really allows us to be more efficient and more effective when we get there. It doesn't get us there faster. There used to be 2 metrics to NFPA 1710. There was the 1 rig in 5 minutes or less 90% of the time, which is the one I talked about, and it's still there. There used to be another one about getting 14 firefighters on the scene in 9 minutes and 20 seconds or less. And that one would be affected by having 4 people on the rig. Now, with that being said, all of our SOPs are really designed for 4 people on the rig. So when we arrive with 3 people on a rig, the fire doesn't really care, right? We still have the same amount of work to do with 3 people as we normally did with 4. So when we try to do that with 3, it either causes delays, sometimes it causes injuries because we're, overexerting ourselves, or it just makes the operations a little bit more complex. So really, it works better with 4 people on a rig. I do have a staffing plan in place. It's a 10-year staffing plan to get us to 4 people on every rig. I don't know that I'm going to be here 10 years to see it through, but I certainly want to put us on the track. And our first, step on that was getting these first 15. And then we'll try to get another 15 here in the next year or so and kind of work that schedule to get to the other end of the 10 years. But yes, that is important. To get to the other part of your question, there are a lot of other things that factor into it. Certainly street widths, the addition of bike lanes, have kind of narrowed the travel distance that we have to work with. Weather, this is a standard that's nationwide, right? So it's the same standard in Texas as it is in Minnesota, so they don't take into account winter or things like that. Additionally, it seems like the city has constantly been under construction since just before the Super Bowl, I would say. And so I think that is factored into it. But I think the other thing that factors into it is the addition of runs. So when Engine 6, per se, goes out on a run, that means when there's another run in Engine 6's box, somebody else has to take it. But they're coming from probably a longer distance away. So that adds to the response time. Now it's kind of a domino effect. Now, if that person gets a run in their district, then somebody else has to take that from a long distance away. So that's why we're trying to attack it from a number of different ways. One, by adding more people and more rigs into the response model. And 2, by streamlining our dispatch process to cut out the unnecessary time. I won't call it unnecessary. That's probably a bad way to put it. But to make more efficiencies in that process, I would say to cut it down that way, but also the 4 people on the rig so that we can be at our best and most effective when we get there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Just to add on to that, I generally, when I speak about our fire department, say that we have the same number of staff that we always have, but versus, I think 20 years ago, we have about twice the number of runs. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
And that's a lot. That helps to explain why when Station 6 is out, which is almost always, that then these other dispatched rigs, I'm probably using the wrong terms, there'd be a longer response time.
Yes.
So to that end, and looking at what you had in your slide on overtime, does this mean that more FTEs would help?
More FTEs would help with that. That's why we applied for the SAFER grant and got the 15 additional FTEs. The 15 doesn't get us to 4 on every rig, but it does help cut down on the overtime costs and on the wear and tear on the other firefighters. So until we get to, I'm going to say 60 additional people, that's probably where we'll get to 4 on every rig. The 15 allows us to get 4 on the most busier rigs, the most busiest rigs on many days. But the biggest thing right now is it cuts down on overtime and on the wear and tear and injuries on our other firefighters.
Yeah, I think that a big risk to our city when we're in this amount of overtime budgeting, whether it's police or fire, is that really more FTEs in these areas of public safety would help.
They would help quite a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Payne?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, my questions are kind of similar. I'm always confused. What's the difference between authorized count versus budgeted?
Mm-hmm. So authorized is budgeted. So it's really the same word. What we're budgeted for is what we're authorized. And right now that is actually 419 in the budget and 15 with the grant, which brings us to 434. Right now we have 21 cadets in school. So if you add that to we're actually below 434 right now. We're at 427, I believe, right now. That actually gets us to 448, which is above 434, But because we have to hire a whole class at a time, we hire up and then attrit back down to that number. But to answer your question, budgeted and authorized is one and the same.
Okay, so then, if you're saying that it would take roughly 60 FTEs to get to that target of 4 per rig, is the barrier us finding the money, or are there like operational barriers in terms of not having enough like space in each station to actually house that many FTEs? Like what's the barrier for that we should be thinking about?
It is the money.
Yeah.
The space is there. It is the money. Of course, it would take us some time to hire up that many people. I can't hire 45 people at once, but I know I can get there in a year. So
Right.
it is the money.
Okay, no, that's good to know, because I know I got a lot of concern. I think it was Station 15, maybe. Is that the one on Johnson Street?
Yes.
You did clarify for me, we didn't shut the station down, but we did lose staff
rig.
for 1 rig.
Yes.
And there was a lot of concern in my community about that. So it's good to know that the barrier is just the money.
It is.
All right, Councilmember Wansley.
Thanks, Chair Koski. Chief, I just had a question regarding the status of the fire station for Engine 10, kind of like where are we in locating space or kind of the challenges with that?
Well, we really haven't, other than presenting the idea, we really haven't even started on that. Right now, it's still the first precinct. So, there's really not a whole lot we can do with that until they're ready to vacate it. But I do know that it will require some extensive renovation. When we left it, somebody, when they designed that fire station in their infinite wisdom, decided to put a basement under the apparatus floor, and so it won't support the rigs that we currently have. So it will require some reinforcement and some renovation, but that's a lot cheaper than building a new fire station. So, and it's already located in a spot that would be ideal for Engine 10 to be at. So, I guess long story short, we're not far with it because we really, it's a little too early for that, but the idea has been advanced.
Awesome. And then next question is around just fleets. I know you mentioned delays because of some of the conditions of the fleets contributes to that. And also there is a backlog in getting, it seems like, new engines. Can you share, how many engines do we currently have on request, especially knowing that it takes like a year now to get them?
Yeah, not a lot. So we order them on a schedule, and we've been aware of this backlog for some time. So we're doing okay, and we order them early. So we ordered them before the ones we have are getting ready to, fall apart. So I think we only have maybe 2 engines and 1 truck that we're waiting on now. So it's not a whole lot, but we're still waiting. And but we're aware of that, and the engines that we have the capacity to last another year until they get here. So as long as it doesn't get any worse, I think we'll be okay. We've been able to plan for that. One thing that has also been a challenge is it's hard to go out and competitively bid when you know you got to wait a year for a fire engine, and doing that's going to start the process all over again. So we're kind of I won't say stuck with, but stuck with the people who we have right now, and we're happy with them. They build great fire engines, but it just causes a lot of problems. But we plan for it along with fleet, and so we're doing okay. But it's a risk, it's a concern. So if it gets to be starts to get longer than that, if it gets to be a year and a half, 2 years, and they say they can't even get the chassis to even build the fire engines on as part of the problem, it might start to be a problem for us. But right now, I think we're okay in that we built in a long time ago a replacement schedule of every 5 years or so when, we can make them last longer than that if we need to.
So for like 2024, the dream is that we will have these 2 engines and 1 truck delivered for next year, and kind of like 2025 or 2026, the replacement schedule. Are you looking at like having to replace additional 2 engines, or you mentioned you had like a replacement schedule?
Basically, the schedule, we replace 2 engines in a truck every year.
Oh, okay.
So it's just kind of a ongoing thing.
Awesome. Okay. All the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rainville.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chiefs, thanks for coming down today and presenting your budget. It's always a good day in these chambers when we see a firefighter in here, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Couple questions. In New York, they're having a lot of problems with lithium battery fires increasingly, and I believe it's more scooters than cars, but as that becomes more popular here, are we ahead of that, or what are your plans to deal with lithium fires?
Yeah, so it's something that we have actually been training on for some time now and kind of keeping a close eye on. I think it's a bigger problem in New York because they're so dense and they live in more apartment buildings, and people are bringing these motorized bikes and things into their apartment building and charging them there. And so when they do catch on fire, now you have a building in your apartment. But it's something that we're very much aware of. It's something that we're keeping a close eye on. Actually, we just received a information request on how many electric bike fires we've had so far, and thankfully, we really haven't found many records of any. I can recall a fire that we had where a person was taking these batteries off of the, scooters and things and collecting them all in his apartment and house, and that created a big fire. The challenge with those batteries is that, first of all, it takes a lot of water to put them out because of the way that they burn. And once you get them out, they can reignite. They can still store energy. They can still, have emissions and things that can catch back on fire. So my first advice would be is don't bring them in your house. Keep them in the garage, charge them outside. A lot of times the problem we have is not necessarily with the batteries that come with the machinery, from the manufacturer, but a lot of times these secondhand batteries, these replacement batteries are not always made to the same standards. And so, but yeah, it's something that we're keeping our eye on. I don't know that anyone has come up with, although I think New York has probably the most aggressive program. I don't know if anybody's come up with the definitive answer for that, but definitely it's a challenge that we're keeping our eye on.
So what I'm hearing you say is it's more the bikes and the scooters are a challenge as opposed to cars.
Yeah, we haven't seen it so much with the cars. The cars are a challenge in that, there's a lot more batteries and a lot more, possibility of a disaster. But they're also much more quality in build. Those batteries are higher quality batteries. And so we haven't seen it much with the cars. But I would say it's still a risk, but we haven't seen much with fires in those cars.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. President Jenkins?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Chief. I'm glad to hear that the Pathways program is back up and running. It has been as you said, an award-winning program and a really, I think, a great way to recruit. But you also said you're recruiting 2 to 3 classes a year, and I'm just curious.
We're slowing down now. We're slowing down now.
Oh,
We got
okay.
there. Yeah.
No, I'm curious how are you managing that, and how can we translate that to other departments?
Yeah. So for us, it hasn't been that. Of course, my training chief is announced he's getting ready to retire, so we might have burned him out. But no, we've been able to manage it, I think, pretty well. It's been taxing on certainly our HR department on, having to, do all the interview processes and get all the classes hired, and certainly on the training staff. But, I think everybody knew that it was necessary, and so we've just kind of tried to plan it, and plan to work, and then work the plan as best we can. One thing with that SAFER grant that I was talking about is part of the performance requirements is that if we get below 434, we're put on a clock where we have 6 months to hire another class to get back above 434. So we've been able to plan it out. With Minnesota, it requires a little more planning because it's hard to train firefighters in the dead of winter. So, we have to plan it out so that we're going to be able to make the best use of our weather and facilities to be able to get them the training that they need. So, But yeah, it's planning and management, and we were able to do it.
Are you seeing a lot of diversity and women and people of color as well?
We have a lot because of the EMS Pathways program, but I think we can do better. I think there's room for improvement. I think in the last year, in 2022, we hired the second amount of most women firefighters we have in any other year prior. I think 1999 was the record. I think we hired 9 that year. We hired 8 last year. But I had a lot that turned down the job too, or took positions in other places. I talked about some of these other departments. A lot of these suburbs now are becoming full-time career fire departments, and they pay more than Minneapolis, but you do a lot less. So that appeals to some people. So it's competitive out there. It's a lot more competitive than it was in the past. But we keep pushing ahead. We've have a women's association now that recently recommitted its ranks. They had kind of shut down for some years, but now they're back now, and so they've committed to helping us with our recruitment efforts and preparing some of our female candidates for the physical test and some of the rigors of the job. So I think we're on the upswing. So
my last question, Madam Chair, is around chemicals, and I know there's been a lot of concern around some of the chemical suppression stuff that firefighters use. Are we looking into that and trying to help keep firefighters safe by using other kinds of fire suppression beyond water?
yes, so I think I know what you're talking about, and that's the PFAS chemicals, PFAS.
Yeah.
So those we found in 2 different places. One, we have this chemical called AFFF, which we have used historically for be like oil fires or gasoline fires, or flammable liquids. And that used to contain PFAS, PFAS chemicals. We stopped buying the PFAS version of that quite a while ago when the research started coming out. I want to say 6-7 years ago. Plus, I think the state actually passed a law against it. The second place was it was being found in our turnout gear,
Right.
because it's flame resistant. And so I think the industry had to, again, because of laws, stop making those with the PFAS chemicals in there. But just in case, we're very careful that we're, going through the MDS, the material data sheets to make sure that they don't contain PFAS in those garments as we buy our new turnouts, which we also buy turnouts every year to make sure that everybody has 2 sets and to replace old sets when they expire.
Thank you, and thank you for your work, sir.
Thank you.
Councilmember Payne?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I just got back in the queue because Councilmember Rainville brought up e-bikes, and I've been following along New York a little bit. And I think you mentioned this, Chief, that it's less the batteries that came with the bike and it's more the aftermarket batteries.
Yes.
And one of the things that New York's, I think they either passed legislation or they're working on it, is to require that all batteries are at least Underwriter Lab certified, so that you're not getting these aftermarket batteries that are actually running into those issues. So that's something that maybe we could consider on council as well.
That's something I would definitely welcome.
Thank you. I put myself in queue. I just had a couple questions as well, Chief. I can't remember what slide it was, but I believe it's under the training program, under that budget. The original 2024 budget was 11.8, and it moved to 11.2. I was just wondering what the difference was for that.
Let me look back. So I do know that budget actually made a lot of adjustments in the way that they're actually calculating things. So I don't believe we asked for any changes in that part of it. So I'm thinking it was probably one of those. But I don't have the exact reason in front of me.
Yeah, it was a decrease, you know, the original 2024.
Excuse me. Okay. We'll have to look into it. I can get back to you with that.
Okay, great. That'd be, or I don't know if, I feel like we have the budget team here that might have your
Yeah, I got a
answer as
feeling it
well.
probably showed up in another area.
So, welcome.
Chair Koski, council members, yes, the IT model changes, the way we calculated that, made a big impact in
Okay.
where that's showing up in their budget.
Got it, yeah, because it's a almost $600,000 difference. I just was curious what that shift was. Perfect, that's helpful to understand. And then my other question, kind of just piggybacking a little bit on what Council Vice President was asking about, you know, overtime and FTEs. I'm just curious, why do we utilize the additional funding, or why choosing overtime, so $800,000 versus hiring more FTEs?
In 20 and 21, we didn't have the ability to hire because, not only because of the hiring freeze, but we also didn't have the ability to even train firefighters through the COVID pandemic. So overtime was really our only way to keep the rigs open. It was either that or having to close down rigs and reduce service to the community. So that was the biggest reason for those couple of years. But yeah, I guess it all comes down to cost. You know, FTEs come with salary plus benefits, where overtime is just salary.
Okay, but for now, this is our method of continuing to make sure that we're hiring and retaining. I guess I'm just trying to balance. I mean, we have a lot of conversations around the hardship of the amount of overtime we're expecting of our firefighters, our police officers. And so just, you know, being mindful of, you know, how we're allocating those funds. If not having an FTEs or adding FTEs would also help compensate for that too in the future.
Adding FTEs would go a long way towards compensating for that.
Okay. Well, I'm not seeing any further questions. Thank you so much for this presentation, Chief Tyner. Appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
All right, next we have a presentation from the Police Department. I see Chief Brian O'Hara out here in the hallway, and his team. Welcome, Chief O'Hara. Yep, we are ready for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Okay.
Go ahead. You're
Good
on.
afternoon, Chair. Thank you,
Yes.
members of the council. So just to start off, okay. This first slide reflects the reorganization of the MPD. As many of you know, during the course of the year, we came before you to ask for certain new positions, to have a state law enacted to change the structure of the department. And this is now what the structure of the department looks like after all of those changes. So after we began to make appointments to the command staff, we made 18 new appointments to members of the command staff. Some of those members are joining me here today. And since then, we've actually transferred close to 90 sworn members, transferred and reassigned them. So combined, this is clearly the largest shakeup of the police department in modern history, and this is now what the organization of the department looks like. Coming down on the second level from the chief, there's an operations branch, which is commanded by Assistant Chief Katie Blackwell, and then the Community Trust and Engagement branch, that's commanded by Assistant Chief Chris Gators. And underneath each of those, you see where the deputy chiefs report. Under operations, it's investigations and patrol. Under community trust, it's everything else: constitutional policing, internal affairs, and the Professional Standards Bureau. Full-time equivalents. So the difficulty with this presentation for the police department, because we changed the structure mid-year, we're currently operating under the old structure, and that will be corrected with the new budget. And the finance director is here, and she could speak to that a little bit more. But as you see, the Constitutional Policing Bureau is something that's new, and there's a request for 28 FTEs in next year's budget. Currently, there are four sworn FTEs in that position. In the operations branch, which includes patrol and investigations, there's a total currently of 512, and the request is for 734. Community trust and engagement, which is the other half of the department, currently 58 sworn, and the request being for 177. So how it plays out both for sworn and civilian, currently budgeted under this year is 900, and for next year the request is 939. And again, that reflects the minimum sworn number of 731. Current sworn FTEs, again, there's 4 in the Constitutional Policing Bureau. In patrol, there's 389. Special operations is 25. Investigations and forensics, 99. Community engagement, 8. Professional standards, which includes the administrative division, and also the Internal Affairs Bureau, has 50, with a total active sworn of 574. The priority objectives. So obviously, recalibrating sort of the vision and mission of the agency. The mission of every sworn member of this department, when it comes down to, is to protect vulnerable people from harm. It's to protect life, then to protect peace, and then to protect property, in that order. And sort of, our objectives as we go about that, what we should be focusing on every day are these 3 points. If we're not doing things that advance these 3 points, we're wasting our time. And number 1 is to reduce serious crime, while number 2, earning people's trust. And then number 3 is obviously to rebuild the department. And that is both to rebuild internally, after our officers that remain have been here through so much, but also to better replenish the ranks. Many of our officers obviously have left. Close to 40% of the department has left over the last 3 years, and our force continues to get older as we are not bringing on enough new members to keep pace with normal attrition. Achievements this year, obviously, everyone knows the settlement agreement was signed. Commander Yolanda Wilkes is here with me. She is the commanding officer for the implementation division. She's done a fantastic job at leading that unit, at standing it up from scratch, essentially with no how-to manual. And if any of you all have been at some of the recent community engagement sessions, I think it's clear that the unit has been very successful so far in advancing not only the terms of the settlement agreement, but also ensuring that we're able to connect with community and make sure that voices are heard as we go through this process. You all know that the CCPO ordinance was implemented, and now Internal Affairs split from OPCR, all citizen complaints going to OPCR. We created the Pathways partnerships, encouraging the Peace program, which is under Assistant Chief Gators. The Police Activities League was recreated this year, during the last budget, a memorandum of understanding was signed with Unity Community, and that partnership continues. The Step Up program was added to the Peace recruitment plan, and we also initiated this year for the first time an internship program through PERF with HBCU universities around the country. Obviously, there's no HBCUs in this part of the country, but many of our residents do go. And it's our hope to expand that program next year. Some of our members just returned from Alabama A&M, where the intern that was here was helping as a recruiter to spread the message to other students in that school. So that was successful. We're also engaging with Alexandria to try and provide transportation for city residents who would be interested in going to that program to become a police officer through the CSO program. Our crime lab received accreditation. And also, we've really had tremendous success with the temporary case investigators. The case investigators that we have are very experienced. They're very good at what they do. But the problem is they're temporary employees. So they have no benefits. They have no sick time. They have no paid time off. And they're absolutely essential, not only because of the volume of investigations, but particularly for what is required to present a case to the prosecutor's office for charges. there's just so much, there's so much administrative work that needs to be done, reviewing video, preparing PowerPoints, those types of things, that we don't need a sworn member to be doing that. But these folks are very experienced and very helpful with moving those cases along that would otherwise be sitting longer before we could have some sense of justice for our victims. Firearms unit and forensics surpassed 6,000 total confirmed NIBIN hits. That's the National Integrated Ballistics Network, the firearms tracing that we do whenever there's shell casings that are recovered, whenever an illegal handgun is recovered. Every one is entered through NIBIN, which is a program with the ATF, and that's been tremendously successful at linking crime guns, not just to one particular incident, but to multiple incidents, and then branching off from there. So it's an impressive investigative tool, and it's been very helpful for some very serious crimes. Challenges, obviously, are the settlement agreement and an impending federal consent decree, which is obviously very resource intensive. Funding will be needed for various requirements, upgrades to technology. Training is a big part of that. It's about 60 hours already in addition to everything that we do. And there is an expense associated with that, particularly when it's difficult to maintain minimum staffing as it is. Anytime you remove an officer for training, there is a need to backfill. So clearly training and being able to pay for trainers and to have our own instructors there is certainly a challenge. Reform itself, I think that's something already we're doing well with. In terms of trying to turn a corner and advance change, we're doing more than what's required under the agreement, and we're not waiting to being forced to do that. And then also community support. I think we've made some progress, but we're going to continue to do community engagement sessions beyond the minimum that is required, and try and find new ways to target certain communities and certain residents that may not feel like they've been able to have their voice heard. Staffing is right up there, both with, as I mentioned before, reducing serious crime, earning trust, and really rebuilding the department is mainly staffing. The pace of attrition has slowed. However, we're still in the red. We continue to get smaller, and that's definitely a concern. So that affects our capacity to do certain things, to do everything, whether it's patrol or whether it's to have personnel available to conduct investigations. But I think the biggest thing that really suffers under this, particularly when patrol is just kind of going from call to call to call, is a lack of ability, just a lack of time to engage with members of the community, to engage with young people. And that's probably one of the most important things that we need to be ensuring that our officers are doing. In the 3rd precinct, we recently implemented 2 beat officers to try and target, to go around and target certain neighborhoods, and we've seen some success with that. But that is the type of thing that's needed to rebuild sort of faith in the department, and it's a challenge with the level of staffing that we have. Recruiting and retention obviously are important with that. They're intertwined, and it's no secret. Aside from the trauma that our officers have been through, there's definitely a sense. It's very difficult for them. They've watched 40% of their colleagues walk out of the door over the last 3 years. They have felt like they have been painted with a broad brush by folks who do not know them personally. And they oftentimes feel like they are doing everything they possibly can and do not feel supported. That is their sentiment, that's their feeling. And that's difficult because I think we continue to have officers who question whether or not they made the right career choice in the first place. They continue to question themselves whether they should stick around. And that's something that I try and address head on with our command staff, and I try to remind them that, you know, we need to remember what our purpose is for being here in the first place. And we need to remember that not only it's about all of our residents who are depending on us to be there, it's about your fellow officers who are depending on you to be there as well. So that's something we're trying to address internally. And I think as we do a better job internally at sort of remembering, you know, enforcing our values and remembering what our purpose is, hopefully we can try and push that in the right direction as well. And obviously, officer wellness is critically important, especially now. There's a contract that we've had that's been underway for a few months with a mental health provider that is specific to first responders, Ellie, and there's a health and wellness unit as well. And they have had a lot of interaction with our officers, but there's still, I think, a perception, kind of a negative perception around asking for help, which is something that we need to be mindful of as supervisors and try and encourage that as much as possible. So program staffing in summary, this is essentially showing, as you see on the right, the different bureaus and how both the total amount of finances for each bureau and how that has changed over time from 2021 to 2024. Okay, program updates, goals, data, race, equity impacts, and budget proposals. The first bureau, constitutional policing, which is obviously created to house generally the implementation division, but also other things specifically related to consent decree implementation and compliance were added to that as well. Obviously they have to satisfy the tenets of the settlement agreement, and satisfaction will occur through training, policy creation, community and employee engagement, data collection and analysis, improved supervisor oversight and direction, and compliance review. So that's what's listed. Obviously, those are the terms that the implementation unit is responsible for implementing throughout the department. But just to speak to that generally, obviously, before we even revise policy, we have gone out to conduct the engagement. Then we received all that engagement. That's all being analyzed now. Policies are being drafted in concert with the city attorney's office. Eventually, there will be revised policies that will then be presented to community for review, ultimately being approved and implemented. Once we have the policies, then we have to have the new training ready to go. Because you cannot actually hold officers responsible for this stuff unless they've been adequately trained. And that will require, in addition to the 60 hours, it will require training that will be approved by MDHR, which must include adult-based learning methods, and also various forms of scenario-based learning so that we can be confident that our officers can actually understand the policies other than them simply coming out via email, but also have sort of the skills necessary to actually implement it on the street. Then for compliance, obviously the data collection is necessary and improved supervisor oversight. A lot of what was in the DOJ report and also in the settlement agreement with the state revolves around supervisor oversight. Supervisors being present, supervisors holding officers accountable, which doesn't mean necessarily discipline. It just means when they see something that's wrong, they speak to it and correct it. As an agency going forward, we will only be as good as our worst supervisor. And that's what I tell our cops. So definitely in addition to the things that are being required, we are looking at trying to have additional training or sort of a retreat for our frontline supervisors so that they understand the seriousness of their role in affecting both the culture and the morale of the department. You know, I am not present at roll call at 10 o'clock at night in the 3rd precinct. The sergeants are, the lieutenants are that are working those nights. So we need those folks in those positions to know that they are the ones that have the ability to actually affect the morale and to make these reforms real for people. They are the ones who can correct a negative mindset before it spreads to other persons. And that's part of kind of how we're thinking about kind of recalibrating the way we look at our roles. So the Constitutional Policing Bureau is new, and everything that falls under it is $6.3 million of the recommended budget. In addition to the Implementation Division, the Research and Policy Unit will fall under Community Policing, as well as the Community Outreach Services Division. So policy is just what that is. It's what previously existed to update the manual. And in addition to implementation, what we discussed, there's an RFP currently out to implement an early intervention system. There's currently an early intervention unit in the police department. It is a manual process. It is not nearly what it should be. The RFP that is out will help integrate things through data and make the process a lot more effective and ultimately have a lot more accountability over how that process works. And under community outreach, we have the crime prevention specialists in each of the precincts. They also coordinate with the BCR teams, the embedded social workers in the precincts that are actually employees of the county, our chaplain program, and the COPE mobile response. Expected outcomes, these are the things that we need to accomplish in 2024 under the settlement agreement. 16 hours of use of force training. And again, that's after the policy is revised and approved. That'll include an emphasis on de-escalation. 8 hours for supervisors, training them how to review use of force incidents. 16 hours on stop, search, and arrest. And these are for all sworn members of the department. Everyone has to go through this. 16 hours on non-discriminatory policing. Obstruction of legal process and disorderly conduct training. This is something I have, in addition to what's in the settlement agreement, I had the implementation unit draft something up relative to this. I want to try and go a little bit further than what's in the settlement agreement. Obstruction and disorderly conduct, those are arrests that can occur when there's no underlying offense. And that's something that I want to have a particular emphasis on. When there is no underlying offense, I want to make sure that we're doing everything possible to make sure that our officers are trying to de-escalate instead of arresting for those offenses. Crisis intervention requires 8 hours of training. There will be an additional reprogramming of the FTO program, be training for the FTOs as well as training for the supervisors who supervise the FTOs. We'll be doing training for internal affairs investigators. That'll be 16 hours. ABLE training will be continuing. That's 8 hours. And all MPD instructors will need to have a training on sort of like how to teach, how to instruct using adult-based methods, and that's 40 hours. Complete assessments and create plans based on the assessment outcomes. Training, facilities, health and wellness, equipment, that's required, a required assessment under the agreement that's ongoing right now. Improvement to the data systems is a heavy lift. The MPD has various, like any other department or any other police department, has various siloed data systems in order to implement and to track and conduct the analyses that are required under these types of agreements. We need to be able to link those systems together. So that's something that there's an RFP out there for that. Policy development will be ongoing. So it's not just for the terms that are in the settlement agreement. Even if it was just for those topics, it's not like we do it once and it's over. It's an annual review process that has to be completed. Internal review panels. So there'll be a designated team by policy of MPD command staff that will meet quarterly to discuss metrics, training, policies, and other considerations discussed in the agreement. An early intervention system database will be implemented and EIS will start operations. Again, that'll be something, the current process is manual. That'll be something that'll be based on data with systems linked up so that we can see certain things. We can see, the system, the workforce system that lists officer hours will be connected with the system that has, use of force information, that'll be connected with the system that tracks stops and those types of things. So that's what I'm talking about, to actually have something more robust than the current process, which is when somebody in internal affairs notices something, or a supervisor notices something, they make a phone call and a referral. Quarterly roll call visits by health and wellness, and contracted mental health services, which is the group I mentioned earlier, the LE group. Equity, MDHR findings report has noticed several racial disparities and disparate impacts. Budget proposal is responsive to the agreement that is intended to address those disparities and impact through improved policing and related services. The investments made in this proposal will help better ensure more equitable and high-quality service for those historically impacted communities. So, obviously, there is a disparate impact based on race in police enforcement data. It's obviously here as well as virtually any other city that you have. How I try and explain this to folks is our obligation is to ensure that we don't have some individual officers that are doing things to exacerbate those disparities that are already existing. And also, as an agency, that we look at different commands, we look at different shifts to ensure that there isn't some practice that is being endorsed in some way by the department that makes disparities even worse. So that's the bottom line. That's our obligation, to have stuff in place, to have processes in place, systems in place, so that we can make sure we're intervening if there's an individual officer that is inappropriately, unlawfully exacerbating these disparities, or that we have some practice that is making disparities worse. MPD requests 6.428 million. That's the Constitutional Policing Bureau. We mentioned 28 FTEs, ongoing funding of 4.5 million, specifically related to the settlement agreement. 28 positions within the MPD, which is 3.7 million, and non-personnel expenses, which is $500,000. One-time funding of 2.1 million covers the overtime needed to complete required trainings within deadlines. That is obviously an estimate. That's our best estimate at this time, because obviously schedules change and things like that. Staffing changed. And as I mentioned, every time we take someone off the street, there's an expense with that. So that's particularly difficult to plan out in advance, but that is our best estimate of what it will be. The value of this budget proposal lies in two key areas: quality of public services and decreased liability for the city of Minneapolis. But the bottom line is, what we're really trying to get here is we're trying to change people's experiences on the street. We're trying to ensure that more people will trust us. We're trying to ensure that less people, will feel like they have nothing good to say about us. And at the end of this, we'll have fewer cops that get hurt in interactions with the public, and we'll have fewer members of the public get injured. That's really what's most important. Everyone will be safer. That's really the goal, not just decreasing liability. Proposal will help the city provide more equitable, procedurally just policing service. Effective, equitable, more accountable policing should result in fewer negative interactions, which is the vast majority of what people's complaints are about. Is just is stuff that's related more towards officer demeanor than it is towards some of the larger, more serious issues that are addressed by the consent decree. Equity impacts obviously reduce racial disparities, and that's just repeating again the disparities that we know exist. So, constitutional policing. Okay, so these are all the positions that were outlined that are either in the implementation division or they're somewhere else in the police department that support the requirements of the settlement agreement. IT obviously is a big part of it, as I mentioned, for a variety of reasons. There's a compliance SME manager. That's a position in the implementation division, responsible for our compliance with the settlement agreement and supervising a team of compliance specialists. 2 compliance specialists being assigned to the implementation division, and those will be folks that look at the various parts of the agreement as we implement them and do our own compliance checks just to ensure that we are actually implementing things according to plan. Wellness SME being assigned for administrating and directing wellness program. Training SME responsible for coordinating and directing all the training requirements. And as you saw before, that in of itself is a very heavy lift. Community engagement SME, that's someone who works with our community engagement and data required by the settlement agreement and is directly involved in all aspects, helping to plan and execute the various community engagement sessions that we have. Senior project manager, responsible for overall tracking of deadlines and keeping the staff on track according to plan. All of the settlement agreement, as you know, has specific due dates, and that's all a big push to make sure that we get all of these many things implemented in a short period of time. We do have bilingual community specialists in the unit responsible for assisting with community engagement, community specialist project lead, also involving community engagement, another senior project manager for support services, supervising the policy development and data work, needed to lead and execute on policy change process in conjunction with the requirements of the settlement agreement, 3 administrative analysts necessary for administrative tasks to support the collaborative intellectual work required by the agreement, project coordinator supervisor responsible for supervising research, development, and drafting of policy, policy technician responsible for researching and drafting policies, manager business analyst responsible for overall data analysis and database requirements of the settlement agreement, which again is very, very significant. I mean, close to half of what we have to do is being able to ensure that we have the IT and the data to prove and to measure the things that we're doing. The data scientist and then 2 data analysts responsible for the deep analysis of data, revealing trends, problems, and opportunities to evaluate performance and key metric areas. And there's just tons and tons of data to be looked at already. There's 2 data analysts responsible for the analysis of data and data needs with the settlement agreement. An EIS manager will be responsible, civilian position, for managing the success of the EIS program once we have it. EIS data analyst to evaluate the data that comes through from the various systems. 2 analysts, administrative analyst 2 for internal affairs. This is needed to meet MDR deadlines for unique identifier or 7-day requirement for case review. 2 body-worn camera analysts for internal affairs. That's necessary for the additional video analysis that's required under the consent decree settlement agreement. Internal affairs case intake investigator. This is needed to meet deadlines, again, for the 7-day requirement case review. We're looking to hire a civilian training director, someone with experience with adult learning, with forming curricula, to create and direct the training programming in consultation with the police department command staff, as well as the city attorney's office. Use of force training civilian supervisor, responsible for developing comprehensive defensive tactics programming that aligns with the requirements of the settlement agreement. Safety services. Okay. So this is patrol, public safety services, responding to criminal activity, responding to all 911 calls and other calls for service, responding in a timely manner the last 3 years, year to date. As you can see, priority 1, which is the highest priority, MPD is responding to 75% of the time, is meeting its response goal of getting there within 11 minutes of the call. This is something that's very important. I mean, we're not pre-pandemic yet, but we have had a dramatic decrease in the number of shooting victims this year, thank God. As of today, I think there's 170 fewer people shot this year than there was at this time last year. So prayerfully that trend will continue. We are still above 2019's number, but it's a very, it's progress, absolutely. Percentage of encounters that do not involve the use of force, that data is being rebuilt and reformulated due to new requirements on the MDHR. Number of robberies is down this year to date by about 23% citywide. Number of carjackings, which is a subset of robberies, is down by almost 1/2 compared to this point of last year. Data and strategies, patrol is comprised of 415 employees serving our entire city, obviously providing 24/7 response. MPD proactively engages in strategies, enforcements, and partnerships to address and reduce the impact of violent crime. Officers have responded to 168,000 of calls for service year to date and have contributed to the recovery of 836 illegal firearms. Gunshot wound victims are down 36% year to date. So obviously there's been some strategic and expanded use of overtime, particularly with the late night safety plan for late night activity in the downtown, as well as with our focused enforcement details and multi-agency details to target the very small number of folks that are out here pulling triggers and causing a lot of harm. We try and leverage staffing and tools to provide exceptional and effective ways to reduce violent crime and property crime. Again, that involves targeting the worst of the worst, identifying those folks who are most at risk for reoffending, going after that less than 1%, but also focusing on sort of the geographic concentrations and places and times where we're most at risk of having a serious crime. Directed patrols, there's been 865 guns recovered year to date. Carjacking is down, again, 45%. Shots fired calls down 30%. And fully automatic gunfire is down 15%. It was down more than that for at least the first half of the year. So it is concerning that we are again seeing an increase in automatic gunfire being detected through the ShotSpotter system. And obviously we have had a problem with the availability of switches, which are devices that can make a pistol or a firearm be able to pull the trigger once and fire basically all the rounds that are in the weapon. So that continues to be a challenge. Crime analysts here are fantastic. They do a great job at recognizing and addressing and pointing out patterns in the data every day, and use of cameras and lighting to sort of decrease the environmental factors that create the opportunity for crime. External partnerships have been unbelievable. We've had tremendous support from all of the federal, state, and county partners here and continue to rely on them. The language line, and there's a different company that the officers actually use when they're on the street to provide translation services, are used to communicate with basically anyone who speaks any language that there is out there. Victim advocates and other social service providers are used for additional resources and support. And our community navigators really have been fantastic with that. Excuse me. Equity, being responsive to community needs and ensuring equitable service. Violent crime adversely impacts geographic areas that are predominantly populated by people of color. Crime victimization statistics show that people of color are disproportionately represented as victims of crime. And gun violence victims, demographic data shows that 80% of gun violence victims are African American. Budget proposal for overtime. Okay. This one I'm going to pass off for the next few slides to Director McPherson.
Good afternoon. The second budget request that we have going into 2024 is for an additional $5 million for overtime costs anticipated for 2024. It also includes another $1 million for law enforcement support for 2024 as well. These numbers are based roughly on what is happening in 2023. We anticipate our 2023 overtime to be approximately $24 million as well. The projected cost is offset, or the expense for overtime is offset by a payroll savings of $13 million due to staffing below the budgeted sworn FTEs of 731, and also is offset by the 2024 general fund-based budget of approximately $7.3 million. The net of these combined is equal to the $5 million. So in other words, the $5 million pays for $4 million of additional overtime and $1 million of law enforcement support. We anticipate, just for your information, our law enforcement support expense for 2023 to be approximately $1.1 to $1.3 million this year. They have also provided help during some of our larger activities such as Aquatennial and other normal weekly activities. The decrease in sworn FTEs from 2019 to 2023 resulted in a projected lost capacity of 425,000 regular hours. Our use of overtime is to try to mitigate or offset those costs or that lost capacity. This funding, the $4 million out of the $5 million, will only pay for 10% of that lost capacity of regular hours, which is approximately 44,000 hours, and the $1 million of law enforcement support. Oops. Too far, sorry. The overtime, the biggest impact in overtime really is to reach minimum staffing levels and due to staffing shortages. It also helps us and has an impact on response time and community safety, better able to meet minimum staffing levels and allow us more investigatory time in response to caseloads. We also combine other strategies. We're not just using overtime to compensate for our staffing. And that includes the strategic deployment of staff, leveraging the other law enforcement support, cameras and lighting, and we use a lot of the crime analyst work here in order to determine how to strategically deploy our people. I wanted to show you the next slide. Gives you an idea over time of what our overtime has looked like compared to our regular hours. So if you look at this and you compare, for instance, 2019 to 2023, you'll see that we've had a pretty significant reduction in regular hour capacity to the tune of over 400,000. I think it's 425,000. That's corresponding with an increase in projected overtime. I think a lot of you are aware of the CSOT program that we have as well, and the CSOT program is an approval process or approved overtime for very specific items. And so the next slide will actually show you the CSOT that's been working in 2023. You'll notice the one item that's approximately 85% of all CSOT hours, and that is actually due to staffing levels. So as you can see, the biggest impact both in regular overtime and CSOT overtime is due to staffing levels. If you look at also the cost, the CSOT, the incremental increase in the rate to 2x versus 1.5x is approximately $2.7 million of our entire cost of overtime. So the biggest impact is actually just the sheer number of hours that people are working for overtime. Are there any questions regarding the overtime request?
I think we're just going to have you keep going, and then
Sure.
we'll ask questions at the end. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Director. So next, Bureau Special Operations Division, Special Operations and Intelligence Division, 9.2 million of the recommended budget. This includes the Strategic Information Center and obviously being able to manage resources effectively and respond to major incidents and active terror. Metrics are percentage of encounters that do not involve in the use of force, which again, that particular dashboard is being rebuilt currently due to new requirements of the MDHR agreement. And under warrants executed, measuring those search and arrest warrants that occurred safely and without any damage to property, whether it's a broken window or a door that had to be forced. So this year, 64% of the time, there was no property damage at all. Data and strategies gather intelligence to better focus on criminal investigations, which again goes back to trying to be as precise as possible on targeting only those folks who are causing the greatest amount of harm in the community, continuing respect for privacy and civil rights of our people, gathered information that is free from bias, being a conduit for information with our state, local, and federal partners. public safety and threat mitigation using specialized units, which is all that stuff that falls under Special Operations Division, BOMB, K9, and all those various units. Data strategies provide public safety support during large-scale events, including pre-planning for those events. Proactive focused details to address gun violence and emergent patterns of violent crime. Those are the focused enforcement details that we conduct, which include every federal agency, even at times HSI and some of the other federal agencies, as well as our state partners. Metro Transit has assisted us, the county, and it is focused. A number of warrants are served during those details, and those details are particularly focused on, wanted violent felons, as well as current investigations that the various agencies have within Minneapolis. 49 warrants served in 2022, 75 warrants served so far year to date, which is a very positive development, because obviously that is the preferred method of conducting this enforcement. Leverage technology and equipment to improve services and outcomes. Planned and ensured the safety at the following events. President Biden was through Minneapolis early this year when he made a visit to Fridley. The First Lady visited a residence in the 5th Precinct, as well as Loring Park this year. The Pride Parade, Aquatennial, MLS concert at the Commons, the vice presidential visit, and President of Somalia visit. We've updated policies, obviously, to better serve citizen needs, and also to ensure that we're in line with community values. Police reserves fall under this division, and they are out there as volunteers to help us with perimeter control, traffic control at these events. The Investigations Bureau, $30.9 million of the recommended budget. These are all the folks that investigate all the various types of crime throughout the city. They obviously to keep the community safe, provide the highest quality investigative and forensic support for effective prosecutions, to hold offenders accountable, and to hopefully give victims some sense of justice. Provide sound investigatory and forensic support so offenders will be charged and thereby deter future offenses. Process crime scenes and evidence using best practices. Again, our crime scene lab was accredited this year, which is a significant accomplishment, and just demonstrates their professionalism and commitment to their work. Collaborate with external and internal partners to leverage resources and information to address crime patterns, which is something that obviously needs to be done very urgently. We do not wait. I'm on the phone and communicating with my team through the weekend. We do not wait, until Monday morning to address crime patterns as they are emerging. There's definitely a renewed sense of urgency over our obligation to do that. Compassionately support victims of crime and those impacted by crime through outreach services. Again, we do that. Thankfully now we have the social workers from the county, but we also have a great relationship with the city's community navigators who are very effective in providing that type of support as well. And we face victims and people in need with some very unique services. And it is definitely not easy to connect people with the services that they need. So the navigators, the social workers are definitely invaluable to helping our sworn members to do that. Collaborate with stakeholders to ensure all receive the care and the support that they deserve. The metrics for the Investigations Bureau, about 5,500 reported crimes being assigned for follow-up investigations. 1,900 cases have been submitted for criminal charging consideration, 458 of which involved an incident where a gun was used. 5,300 cases have been closed. 3,300 of those occurred in 2023, 30% of which have resulted in a criminal complaint. Of those cases that were closed, 446 involved a gun that was recovered, and 66% of those cases have a criminal complaint. Again, our partnership with all our law enforcement partners, we expanded the presence with our federal partners. I assigned 2 investigators permanently to work in the U.S. Attorney's Office across the street, where they work literally in a room side by side with federal prosecutors to help facilitate and to move these prosecutions much more quickly and provide some level of accountability over sort of some direction, street knowledge, real-time information over what's happening out there to get better help from the other federal agencies that are involved as well. And there's ongoing work to address issues in domestic violence with the assistance of the Global Rights for Women Advocacy Group. And that's ensuring part of that, which again is training. So in addition to all of the other training that we're doing under MDHR, we need to do some new training around domestic violence, because I learned through this group that that's something that had not been done here for several years, and that's also something that we need to be training on annually in the department. So that and a number of other issues, Deputy Chief Case is taking the lead on addressing in collaboration with that group. The Forensics Division, so field operations, which is the folks who respond from our crime scene unit, they've responded to 748 incidents. They've processed 272 vehicles for DNA and fingerprint evidence. They've examined nearly 6,000 shell casings, ballistic evidence, and examined 727 firearms. And for these slides, I will pass them on to Assistant Chief Gators.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and council members. What I'll do is continue on with the community engagement piece with respect to recruitment. I will hit on internal affairs and professional standards. So with our community engagement piece, keep in mind our intent was to do just that, engage in the community. And when we spoke with the community members themselves and people even within our own enterprise, was that they were pretty much done with the fact that they're listening to talk from employees within the police department, and they wanted to see action. They wanted to see us put our words into action, and that's what we have been doing, and that's our intent to try to continue to do. So we've been improving the public perception and accountability and transparency and trust by doing just that. So we've been conducting outreach throughout the community. We've also been and have an understanding now that the community, not only have the police officers experienced trauma, but we understand that the community as well has experienced trauma through the incidents since 2020, and we need to rebuild that and rebuild and earn back that trust. So we also understand that there are mistrusting relationships within the community with the Minneapolis Police Department, and our intent is to go through with that and make certain that we are listening first and implementing action with the community's input. In addition, we're also using innovative ideas when it comes to recruitment, as we have kind of paired up with our outreach piece, and we also pair that up with the recruitment as well. So if we're out doing outreach, we also are giving opportunities for individuals to come on board and join in service in the Minneapolis Police Department. So we have such sessions that take place that are culturally specific. Many times with our recruitment, what we've done in the past is we've gone to the job fairs, we've gone to recruitment fairs, but we have not done what we call better. We can do it a lot better. And we've been going deeper into the community and giving opportunities within the community for employment. Creating hiring ads as well in social media to help build the trust and give opportunities for individuals to join the job. Recruitment team has also, believe it or not, gone door to door. We've tried to reach out to everyone we can, and we're trying to think outside the box and be innovative with it. So they've actually gone out door to door, knocking on doors to see if anybody wanted to become Minneapolis Police Department employees. We're also partnered with the Unity Community Mediation Team, and that's an organization that offers a seat at the table for individuals throughout the community to listen to and somewhat talk about police structure and police service with respect to our policies and procedures and the way we serve people. So we've partnered with them with recruitment efforts as well as outreach efforts in the community as well. These efforts are action and community-based and have also improved our inclusion piece with community members. And when I say inclusion, I'm talking about individuals who are living in areas that are somewhat challenged with opportunities of employment and opportunities for education being paid for to better themselves and better thrive. So we'll continue to do that, and we have been as well. We're fostering partnerships with organizations as well to better community engagement, and we intend to measure our progress with public perception by conducting surveys publicly so we can find out and establish a baseline for how we're doing and how we're viewed by the community, and also how we can move forward and actually measure our progress as we continue on with our efforts to build trust. So continue on with community engagement as we continue our process of discussing crime reduction, building trust, and the advancement of community partner initiatives. We will continue to host programs such as our youth internship program that the chief had mentioned before. We brought on in partnership with Step Up program 31 interns and gave them opportunities to get paid and kind of dip their toe in the water, if I could say, just to see how policing works and if they want to get involved in policing, and also if they're not interested in being a sworn law enforcement personnel, there are opportunities for non-sworn as well. And to go even further than that, I will say that they have opportunities if they don't see as law enforcement as a fit. We try to get them into the enterprise and make sure that they have an opportunity to seek gainful employment, even if they're not interested in the policing portion. Along with that, we're trying to build the college and university internship program. We are working with HR currently, and as many of you may know, as you go through your curriculum at a university, sometimes you have to take on an internship. That is definitely the case with many criminal justice programs, and we are now trying to rebuild our program where we're giving opportunities for individuals to do their internships right here in the city of Minneapolis with the Minneapolis Police Department. So as we continue forward, trying to build trust and offering educational opportunities and paid for education, we have somewhat tried to look at the metrics of it and how many people we're going out and dealing with and interacting with on a side of outreach. So in 2022, and I'll compare that to 2023, 2022, we participated in 71 community outreach programs or events. We ended up from those getting 562 contacts that were made for individuals who were interested in the job of law enforcement. Out of those individuals, 861 applications were filled out in 2022, and you might say, well, how'd you get 800 and some applications out of 562 contacts? Just keep in mind the fact that these are individuals we're meeting on the ground with the 562, but also we have other ad campaigns that are taking place, and word of mouth helps us with that as well, with the hiring efforts that we're initiating. In comparison to 2023, the MPD participated in 106 when you compare it to 71 in 2022, or 107 community outreach events in October of 2023. 1,611 contacts were made, and that's this year, and that was looked at in October 3rd of 2023. From that, 632 applications were filled out in 2023 as of September the 13th. So in our mind, we are making progress and getting out into the community and giving people opportunities to be employed by the Minneapolis Police Department. This year, we employed 31 interns, as I mentioned, from the Step Up program, and we are continuing to develop that university process as far as internships for opportunities. As I go in to the professional standards and internal affairs piece of it, just wanted to let you know that the goal is to continue to have the MPD be accountable to the community and build trust through professional service. Also to bring the MPD in full compliance with the requirements of the settlement agreement. And moving on with the professional standards, as you look at the bullet points as far as metrics, please keep in mind that many of the metrics are being rebuilt as far as the structure of tracking those due to the settlement agreement, and those will be made available later. But please know that we are still strategizing to develop and mentor personnel and improve programs while conducting quality assurance and compliance to department policies. This time, I'll turn it over to Assistant Chief Katie Blackwell.
Welcome.
Madam Chair, council members, so the MPD is requesting $2 million for civilian hires. There's a correction on there. It's the full list is on slides 37 and 38. And we want to hire 16 additional FTEs. Comparatively to best practices in law enforcement agencies, we're at the low end for civilians. And then our goal is to improve community safety and reduce crime. A large part of improving community perception is having a combination of civilian staff and sworn personnel. Really, adding the civilians enables us, the MPD, to place sworn personnel in patrol and investigations to increase resources in the areas that are most needed. This is a slide of the positions. I'll just briefly touch on them. The body-worn camera video analysts, force investigators, police support tech, and the chief of staff. And these are additional ones, the crime analysts, intelligence analysts, and forensic scientists. And then I'll discuss administrative adjustments and transfers. Basically, the transfers that we make are there to make the system more efficient. So we move personnel where needed in collaboration with the other departments in the budget. And I'll invite Chief O'Hara back up to the...
Thank you, Chair. That concludes the presentation.
Thank you, Chief. I have a few council members in queue. Councilmember wants, oh, she's not here right now, so we'll move to Councilmember Payne.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think you touched on this a little bit. You restructured the department. So obviously some of the dollars that are allocated in this year's budget are just tracking with it's going to be a little bit complicated because they're new departments now, or at least new divisions within the department. But I was hoping you could give me some clarity or a little more clarity around some of the higher. So we set aside money for this year's budget for implementation of MDHR, but we didn't exactly know what the scope of that would be. We obviously know that scope a lot more. And so my question is around to what extent have some of the hires that you've done to date reflected the dollars we already set aside? To what extent are some of those hires shifting money around within the department that you have available, and then to what extent are they new requests for 2024? I'm just having a hard time keeping those three buckets in mind. And then if you could go further into talking about some of the civilian and temp help and what the bargaining unit implications are for that, both currently and into the future, knowing that there's going to be some negotiations. Without getting into negotiations, what is the impact of those civilians?
So I will do my best, and I will start with that, Chair, Council Member. I'm going to start with that first, and I'm going to ask Director McPherson to help better with the in-the-weeds budgetary questions. So my understanding is, well, first off, we have an agreement with like an MOU between the city and the Federation to have temporary civilian investigators. So my understanding is that we cannot supplant sworn positions by having permanent civilian case investigators. So that's something that I'm relying on the city attorney's office to help navigate. However, I do believe that there are other positions that are not supplanting, that they are new. They are new requirements. They're new things that we have to do. We're not trying to eliminate a police officer's position. This is just new work that has to be done, and we do not need a sworn member to do it. And I have very specific ideas about what I would like to see with that, particularly in internal affairs. Some of that is on here, but not all of it. My goal of restructuring internal affairs as a bureau is to have it in 3 different components. To have the internal complaints section, which is what internal affairs is required to do under the CCPO ordinance, is what we think of as internal affairs. So that will be one section. There will be another section that focuses on use of force investigations. And you don't need to have sworn members in there. And they should be reviewing everything with use of force. It can be a component that conducts the most serious use of force investigations themselves, but to ensure that the supervisory reviews are being done completely and thoroughly, like there should be a check on all of that. So it's my goal to have a force investigations component as another component of internal affairs, and then the third one would be the candidate investigations, which historically here had been something under community engagement and not a part of internal affairs. The background investigations of people who become officers, I move that now under internal affairs. Everyone who is investigated, the investigation itself is signed off on all the way up the chain of command, right up to the deputy chief of internal affairs. And that's something that had not been happening previously. But that's my goals around case investigators. And then there's other, I would say, similar positions. We may not call them case investigators, but they're people who are doing new work that I don't believe would be affected by negotiations. And before I give it to Director McPherson, in regard to hiring for the implementation division, that's been an ongoing process. We have not filled all the positions that are already budgeted, but that is an ongoing thing. We're still onboarding the best candidates that we have to fill those positions. And I'll ask Director McPherson just to clarify where kind of the money's been coming mid-year for all that.
Yes, I'll try to refocus my question so that you don't get lost in some of the other tertiary things. I'm trying to understand the bucket of new hires. Are they funded through the money we set aside for implementation for this year's budget? Are they being hired via staff savings, although you did kind of account for that in our overtime budget? Or are, and then there's some that are being requested in 2024. So I'm just trying to square away, what did we already budget for implementation? What are we kind of like shifting existing money around to fulfill? And then what's a new request for 2024?
Sure. And I'm going to tell you in advance that I may need Jane to come up here and help me out as well. So, but earlier in the year with the original settlement agreement or implementation unit, there were, I believe it was 22 that were approved for hire at that point in time, 22 civilians. And that amount, I believe, is going to be right around $2.3 million. That money will be spent or will be used using the reserve that's right now in the general fund, but under the auspices of finance, the finance department for the city. The 6.3 that's in the budget for next year is for next year, and that includes those 22 plus the additional 6, so for a total of 28, all civilian hires. Okay, and that will that 6.3 includes salaries. It includes the $500,000 for other costs, mostly around some of the focus groups and a lot on translation costs of that. And then the third piece of that is for the overtime training that's for next year specifically.
And then for the temporary positions, it sounds like we needed an MOU with the Federation,
Correct.
But we have these net new FTEs that are not temporary. Are they going to have the same benefits package and be a part of the Federation and bargaining unit? Or are they going to be separate?
No, all the people that are, not all the people, all the positions that we're trying to hire for next year are civilian. They're permanent positions. They will get full benefits just as all of us are getting full benefits. The temporary positions for the case investigators are actually a year to a 2-year maximum. That's all that we were able to agree upon, and that's usually how it works with temporary anyway, so it kind of fits in with the city policies.
Unless you go back and renegotiate with the Federation a new MOU.
That's correct,
Yeah.
or if there's some way that we can convert those into permanent through, again, negotiation with the union.
And then for the civilians, are they represented by any bargaining unit or not?
It depends on the position. It would just be like any other position within the city. I think, I'm probably speaking a little bit out of line here, but I believe that the majority of the positions are represented positions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Wansley.
Thank you, Chair Koski. And just clarification, thank you, Councilmember Payne. I did have some questions around staffing, and just clarification that 39 new FTEs are predominantly all civilian. Plus 16, okay. And then for budget, I know that first slide, we had the opening of, what is it? 152 sworn vacancies and 7 civilian vacancies. Is there a kind of estimate you can give to like how much that actually totals in dollars? And I'm assuming those are the patrol positions we can't fill.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council Member. Yes, we can.
Oh, a rough estimate would be good. Okay, well, math is happening over there. And those, again, are predominantly all patrol, I'm assuming, then, positions? Okay. Well, while McPherson is working on those numbers, for the Community Outreach Service Division, I did get a chance to look at the budget book where there's a more elaborate description there. Was surprised to see that BCR, however, was included on your slide. Can you share a little bit of why BCR is there? Is there some sharing of resources through this division? Was just interested to see why that was there.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council Member. BCR obviously is contracted through Canopy. It is just there, that commander serves as a point of contact. I have offered previously they did have issues with vehicles at the time. I had offered previously if we could be helpful to, lend vehicles, but that wasn't needed. That is just to ensure that there's a point of contact here on the command staff level to ensure that there's any issues are addressed. Yeah.
Okay, good. Just wanted to have some clarification on that. And then the COPE program, can you share a little bit of when that is estimated to be launched next year?
No? I can get that for you. I don't have the timeline offhand.
Okay. And then for public safety services, thank you for the thorough kind of listing of metrics and some of the accomplishments around the work, but what was missing was what's accounting for the increase in this budget item from $111 million to the mayor's recommended of about $125 million.
Thank you, Chair. Councilmember, could you give me a slide number?
Oh, yeah, slide number 20.
I'm sorry. I would think, because we are not changing, okay, I'll let Director Pearson.
Just give me a minute to open the right page here. Okay, so there's a, Councilmember, there's an increase of $14 million basically between last year and this year. That $14 million is made up of the overtime request of $5 million. The gun investigations unit, which was put in there originally, it's actually going to move next year. That was $3.3 million. Payroll and fringe base increase of approximately $4 million. And the remaining is an allocation change. I believe it's less than $1 million.
Okay. Was it laid out, like, so it's good to know the overtime is included in this? It seems like there were separate items based off of how it was presented. And then what was before overtime? You mentioned something else.
There's a increase in staff, and that's $3.3 million.
Staff. And then payroll, I heard too.
Payroll and fringe base increase of $4 million.
Overtime 5, and then I feel like I'm missing something else.
8, 12.
Overtime.
And then the remainder is allocation changes. I think it's about $1 million.
And you said that's going away, or once I misheard?
It more went into the patrol, partly because of increased number of people,
Gotcha.
but also partly because of how workers' comp is split up that we did internally.
Great. And then going to slide 25, it was really good to see the breakdown of how overtime hours are intersecting with regular hours worked. Do we have data around how off-duty also correlates with those two categories to get a sense of kind of all the things that's impacting regular hours?
Thank you, Chair. Councilmember No. So I recently just put out an order requiring personnel who are working off-duty to log in their hours in the same system. And I will be implementing, working through one of the deputy chiefs to implement a compliance team to do spot checks to ensure that that is happening, because currently there is not a way to do that. And information, just to check that officers are, when they are conducting off-duty work, that they are logging in onto the CAD and being logged into the CAD accurately. There's been a number of problems with that. Sometimes officers will leave part-time while a major incident is going on and not log off. So oftentimes the hours are not accurately reflected. But as of now, within the last month, they're required to log into the workforce system. And I will be forming a team to conduct compliance, to go out and do spot checks to ensure that officers who are working part-time are doing that, because currently there is no way to account for that.
That's good to hear. Hopefully, in the coming months, we could have a graph that has similar data metrics that is mapped out. And then this is the last question before, if you got to figure them out for that first question, Chief. In regards to the investigative bureau, do we know kind of a figure of increase in FTEs for this specific division? I ask this because I know feedback that I've often heard in terms of our current public safety services has been the backlog of complaints and the follow-up on that, and I know that's often been contributed to staffing challenges around investigators. So just wanted to see if there was any FTEs that was also being increased here, or is that like contractual support? How is that being revved up?
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council Member. As you see, it's actually a decrease from the current budget of $9 million. We do have, Director, are the temporary caseworkers, they are not reflected in FTEs? Okay. So as I mentioned, we are looking to make permanent civilian caseworkers and to get additional ones because we do not have as many investigators as we used to, and we do have a higher rate of just a higher volume of investigations than pre-pandemic. And as time goes on, there's continuously more technology, there's more information that's needed for an investigation, whether it's reviewing cameras, surveillance cameras, body-worn cameras, all those types of things, putting things together in a PowerPoint for presentation to prosecutors to ultimately charge. Those are all things that civilians with experience can do, that you don't need a sworn member to do. And we just do not have enough sworn members to handle the volume that is coming through. So that's definitely a goal, to make permanent case investigators who are really doing a great job now and deserve to have the benefits that every other full-time employee here has.
Awesome. And then Director McPherson.
So the number is approximately 18 or $19 million. Those seven, I guess a little bit of a caveat, the 7 civilians that are there, a portion of those, actually a large portion of those, are part of that 2022 from the settlement unit. And this does not include, obviously, any projection on what we'll be hiring for next year.
So the 19 million is encompassing the 152 sworn officers and 7 that, okay.
Yeah, and that's an estimate.
Okay, thank you so much, Director. That's all the questions I had.
Thank you. President Jenkins?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And a few of my questions have been responded to. I did want to really just commend and say thank you, Chief, for the 2 beat cops in the 3rd precinct. I've been out with them, and they are
Thank you.
making a good impression with some of our neighbors and business owners. So I can only say we need more.
Yep.
Also, I'm just curious, can you say more about the MOU with the Unity Community Mediation Team and how that's progressing, and how is that functioning alongside of our the MDHR enforced agreement, as well as the DOJ consent decree when it becomes finalized?
Yep. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council President. So obviously, it's an agreement that the city has had in some form for more than 2 decades. It was re-signed, updated last year, and it addresses some of the same topics that the settlement agreement touches upon, some of the same topics that the DOJ touched upon in their findings report. However, it's different. It's not a court-enforced agreement. There's no independent monitor. We do have a committee, a compliance committee that was formed within the last 4 or 5 months, which is half members of the Unity Community Mediation Team and half are members of the police department command staff, and that tracks the various paragraphs and requirements. Some of that are things the police department has to do. Some of that are things that UCMT has to do. And as each side agrees that we are in compliance, we track that and measure it and follow up. So that's something that will continue sort of parallel to the various court-mandated reforms that we have, but it's definitely something that is in the same vein and is trying to advance the same principles. Additionally, they're available. They're setting up places in community for people to file complaints against police. They're setting up, on one hand. On the other hand, they're also setting up different ways for where they will be trying to help us to recruit more members from the community. They're also, I have asked them to be a part of training our new officers as well, which will be sort of like a mentoring program. But as our officers come out of the academy, I have asked for them to be a part of that field training process so that they can introduce our new officers to stakeholders and leaders from the community, so that there is a greater sense of tie with community right from the beginning. So that's something I've asked them to do in addition to the things that they're working on. And there's a whole list of the compliance stuff, which we have a report on that, and I could get that to you if you're interested in that.
I would be interested.
Yes, okay.
So thank you. And I'm not sure if there's LGBTQIA plus representation at the Unity Mediation Team, but as they're doing training and mentoring, I hope that becomes a part. I mean, those were some of the issues identified in the MDHR report, as well as the Department of Justice those communities were being targeted, et cetera. And then, I guess, how are we dealing with off-duty? Have we come up with a program yet to be able to track and understand where our officers are?
Yep.
How many hours that they are working beyond their scheduled time, et cetera?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council President. So that's what I was mentioning with, alluding to with Councilmember Wansley. The department has had these policies in place, just no ability to actually see what's going on. So we implemented a policy requirement within the last month that requires the officers to actually log in and log the hours into the same workforce system that is tracking on duty and overtime, so that it's there in one place. But in addition to that, going forward, it's not good enough to have something written down on paper. There needs to be follow-up relentlessly, and there need to be people that go out and actually do spot checks for compliance, and then there needs to be a consequence when we find someone that's not doing what they're supposed to do. So that is the direction that we're moving in quite quickly. We have put people on notice that this is a requirement now. You have to log in your hours, and we will have a team of people to go out and do spot checks to ensure that people are actually doing that when they're supposed to. Because as you know, the setup is the setup for off-duty work here is confined by a 1997 court injunction, but there's certainly nothing that precludes us from having the officers report to us exactly the hours that they are working, and if they do not do that, I think the easiest thing that would solve the problem would be to take away the privilege to work off-duty, the first person that we find that's not doing that, and I think the compliance will go up like that. So that's how we're approaching it.
Okay, thank you. I am thrilled to hear the decrease in carjackings and gunshot wounds and people murdered. We could never fully understand where these are coming from. I mean, some people attribute it to the violence interrupters, which I think is a big part of it. Mm-hmm. The work that you guys do, Operation Endeavor. I mean, good economy. I mean, who knows what brings these kinds of things down, but keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Council Vice President Palmisano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question. On the slide that has the Investigations Bureau kind of overview, I don't know what number it is, but ultimately it just shows that the Bureau, the investigations part of the budget, looks like it's ultimately decreasing by almost $9 million. And I'm curious, that seems like maybe that's because of reorganization or putting those resources elsewhere, and could you just help me understand that?
Director McPherson can get into all the specifics.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. There's actually there's a couple things going on here. And again, I guess I just want to reiterate, it is really difficult to follow this budget. The budget was compiled prior to the structural changes, and some of them got in because we knew about them. Some of them came in after the fact, so just bear with us a little bit. Fortunately, in going into the 2025 budget, we'll have more programs, so it'll be a lot easier to follow. But it's a long process to be able to get the financial system, workforce director, and the budget modules all lined up, and it will take us probably until the end of the year to do that. So, but the decrease is for two things. One is in the middle of last year in 2022, The gun unit and the analysts actually were transferred into the Patrol Bureau. And so now that we're moving that money into the Patrol Bureau, but in actuality, now they're going to actually come back into investigations. So for this purpose, though, of the budget, approximately $3.5 million is because of people move into patrol, but then will come back into investigations. The second piece of that is actually a difference in allocation, and that amount is actually $5.5 million. So that includes the allocation for liability. Our liability in 2024 is projected to be 6.4, I believe, 6 something $million less than it is for the current year budget in 2023. Workers' comp is significantly less, and IT is a change as well. So the total for that is all $5.3 million. So it's really those two very large pieces. It's people move, and then it's the allocations being either decreased or moved to other areas.
And just to be clear, that's the liability for the whole police department, not just
yeah,
some
it's a portion
part
of it. It's not the full amount.
Oh, I see. Okay. Thank you. I just mostly wanted to give comfort that we are not short shrifting our investigations in any way.
No.
So, thank you.
All right, Councilmember Payne.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I just threw myself back in the queue because I thought if I asked the fire chief this, I should ask you the same thing. Is there a difference between funded FTEs and what was the word? Authorized count?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council Member. No. Authorized is what is authorized by the budget. Separately, there is, as we all know, a charter requirement based on population, but authorized is what is authorized by the council to be funded.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, next, Councilmember Rainville.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilmember Payne, I just want you to know I do pay attention when you speak, so I remember your comments with the fire chief. Chief, thank you for coming down today. I have two really short questions. One, how does our city compare with the amount of patrol officers compared to other cities our size?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council Member. I come from a smaller city than this, with about 130,000 fewer people, and the police department is twice as big. I think generally, if you're on the East Coast, particularly in the Northeast, the older Northeast cities, staffing tends to be, much greater per capita than it does the further you go west, which is why, like, Los Angeles, the biggest city, second biggest city in the country, has the third biggest police department, because Chicago actually has more police officers. So generally, I think that's how it works. But today, our staffing level per capita is among the lower ones of all major U.S. cities. It's not the lowest per capita, but it is certainly among the lowest.
Thank you. And the second question I have is, great progress was making on the gun crime issues, whether shooting or picking up the guns. And how does the federal government play into that? The Department of Justice has taken over prosecution of gun cases, and I know that the county, the state are helping pick up offenders from guns. Is that part of that decrease?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council Member. So this is a dangerous question now, because if I fail to, I don't want to fail to mention any of our partners that have been incredibly helpful. But yes, we are fortunate to have a U.S. attorney that will prosecute any federal gun crime that we can provide them that has sufficient evidence to prosecute it. So what I am trying to do is to make sure that every violent person that we catch, however, whether it's a district car pulls someone over and gets a convicted felon with an illegal gun, or it's, through the efforts that we have with our gun team, that every gun crime gets prosecuted federally. So that's not 100%. And there's certain times when there's different standards of evidence and what's required for prosecution. So certain cases, they can't take every single case. Like if the gun's just kind of in the car and we don't necessarily have DNA, whether it's the passengers or the drivers, that kind of thing. But every chance that we get where we know there's a person with a history of violence, that it's a convicted offender, convicted violent felon, we do send that over, and the U.S. Attorney's Office here actually has all of the assistant AUSAs working on Minneapolis gun cases. So you might be a white-collar prosecutor, but when your time comes around, there's a case, they are taking them on. So they are a tremendous help, as well as all the federal agencies. The county sheriff's office has the Violent Offender Task Force that works with us every day. The BCA has both sworn and civilian analysts that are very helpful in terms of dealing with the investigations of violent offenders after the fact. It's really a number of partners, but we definitely can't say enough about the commitment of the U.S. Attorney's Office. And frankly, the U.S. Attorney allowing me to assign 2 Minneapolis police officers to his office to work directly with his prosecutors while the Department of Justice is still investigating us. You know, I don't know if there's many U.S. attorneys that would do that. So there's definitely a huge commitment from all of our law enforcement partners, and I think that's playing a huge result, as well as all of the community-based organizations that are out there with us. It's all been very helpful.
Thank you. That's all, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Wandley.
Thank you, Chair Koski. I just had a follow-up question to the Council President around the Unity Mediation team. Just want to know if they're factored into the community outreach services in terms of like resources, knowing that it's just crazy that they would be doing a lot of this like out of the kindness of their heart. Though we have lots of folks who do, but this seems like the work that you laid out is pretty substantial.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council Member. I do not know. I believe they are funded by a foundation. They're not funded by us. Right. I believe they are one of the organizations that's actually applied for the they're not calling it a monitor. What are they calling it? The independent evaluator position for the settlement agreement. But they're not funded by us. And it's something, they have sort of their own rules for membership. And it does represent, at least they try to represent, all of the major communities within the city to ensure that they're represented in the, what's the other group they call it? Police Community, PCRC. Yes. Police Community Relations Council. That's the civilian side of the Unity Community Mediation Team. So it's the police, PCRC, Police Community Mediations Council, and the MPD together is what makes up the Unity Community Mediation Team.
So our part is the funded, like staff or city funded part then?
Right, that would just be for us, not for,
right.
We don't provide them funding.
Right, so we would just do the staff side on our end, and it sounds like they have their own independent funding. Okay, sounds good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I am not seeing any further questions or comments from colleagues. Thank you so much, Chief, for being here. You made it. That's about it.
Well, I was lucky the fire department was before us because everybody loves firefighters, and we certainly have a great fire chief. So,
well, it was nice to have you both today
at
the same time. So,
thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Seeing no further discussion, at this point, I'll direct the clerk to file these presentations. Our next budget committee meeting is, don't hate me, scheduled for tomorrow, Tuesday, October 24th at 10 a.m. That day, we are set to hear presentations on the capital budget, the Park and Recreation Board, and the City Assessing Department. With that, we've concluded all business to come before the committee today, and without objection, we stand adjourned.